Ladies and gentlemen, it is officially update day for Season 2 of Modern Warfare 3 Warzone and Zombies as well. Although, if you're a Zombies fan, you're going to be a little bit let down. But there are some updates to Zombies, some weapon balancing, tuning, things along those lines that we are going to go over. For these type of videos, I do put in timestamps, so if you're just interested in multiplayer, just interested in Zombies, or just interested in Warzone, you can kind of go to those sections and stay up to date on everything that is actually updated within Season 2. But what we're going to start with is what patch notes came out first, which is the Modern Warfare 3 patch notes. This includes both multiplayer and Zombies, and then later on, we will dive into Warzone. So, without further ado, let's dive into the patch notes because there's a lot that changed here. New items like new maps, new weapons, things along those lines, the battle pass. But on top of that, there's also weapon balancing, changes to health regeneration. The game is going to feel different after today's update is what I'm saying. So without further ado, let's dive into the patch notes. Okay, so here we are. Welcome to Season 2. First off, we're going to start out with the things that are new. The new maps include Stash House. This is a very, very tiny map. Vista, which is a Brazilian mountaintop. Departures, which is in the Zakhaev International Airport, so think a new terminal. And DOS House, which is coming in season. It's not coming at launch. That is DOS House, but on top of a skyscraper. There's also a new war map, which is called Operation Tin Man. It is the linear objective-based map. I'm very interested to see what that one is all about. Now, on top of this, we have new modes. We have Horde Point, which is capture the hard point and hold it against attacks. Fight back against the horde of zombies. The first team to reach the score limit wins. So Hard Point meets Zombies. Cool game mode. We saw it back in Call of Duty World War II. Team gun game is self-explanatory. And then in season, we have snipers only, which of course you can only use snipers. We also have Juggermosh, which is mosh pit where everyone is a juggernaut. And finally, Bounty, which there is a high value target that you have to take out. We also have new weapons. So the BP-50 and the Ram 9 are all in the battle pass. So those two weapons are in the battle pass. And then we have two weapons coming in season, the SOA Subverter, which is a battle rifle, and the Soul Renderer, which is a melee sword. I looked at all of these in my video that revealed all of them, but to go over them quickly, we have the Jack Burnout, which is for the Holger 26, which has an adverse fire mode, which makes it fire faster. The Jack Tyrant, which makes the longbow subsonic and also harder hitting. The Jack Buzzsaw is for the Holger 556. It's a high capacity drum magazine. The Jack Limb Ripper, this is an underbarrel chainsaw. No, you did not hear me wrong. We have the Jack Maglift Kit. This one is once again a extra large magazine. The Jack Outlaw 277 turns the Bass B into a lever action rifle, slowing the fire but making it more deadlier. It's an interesting one. That one I'm curious. And the Glassless Optic, this is an optic that has very, very good sights. Also, the new perk, which is the Ninja Vest. This one eliminates footstep sounds, immune to movement reduction effects. Also, you get bonus shuriken and throwing knife ammo, and you resupply shurikens and throwing knives every 25 seconds. There are new operators, which are Battle Pass. I'm going to go into the Battle Pass and microtransactions in a later video today, so stay tuned for that. It'll go live shortly after the update goes live. We also have our new events. So this actually lists all of the events that are coming throughout the season. Horde Hunt, the hunt is on. Every week, hunt down new featured zombie types. I think that's a pretty cool event. Brings us to Zombies, which you're going to be disappointed when we get there. Year of the Dragon, this is an XP event. The Cryptid Boot Camp, Fact or Fiction, Prove Your Monstrous Right, Tinfoil Hat not included. I'm not exactly sure what that one's all about, but I believe the cryptids or what was in extinction back in Call of Duty Ghost, but I could be wrong about that. Let me know down in the comments. The Walking Dead, this one's coming in season, so all of these except for the Horde Hunt are in season. I believe that one comes out February 28th. The Vortex Decay Realm, that's like the Vortex event we had before. And finally, the Dune 2 event, also in season. So this is where we get into the gameplay changes. First off, we have ADS idle sway. It says ADS sway now initiates shortly after aiming down sights rather than immediately, introducing a delay to the sway curve that generally 5 milliseconds long but varies by weapon. So sway is going to take longer to implement, so aiming down sights quickly should be more powerful. Then it says, after the initial delay, ADS idle sway now gradually increases over a 3-second period before reaching peak speed, rather than beginning at full speed upon aiming down sight. So again, quick scoping is going to be easier because of this. ADS idle sway now constantly begins from the position of the player's hipfire crosshair rather than along the sway curve. These changes ensure that players with fast reflexes and precise aim are at a disadvantage the moment they aim down sights. I think you can kind of see what they mean by that. Now, this one is super confusing, and this could make no scoping much easier, but hipfire crosshair sway Crosshairs will no longer sway from the center of the screen while the player moves or rotates. And also, weapon bullet trajectory is now truly aligned with the hipfire crosshairs and thus the center of the player's screen, which means if you hipfire a sniper, it should always hit the center of the screen. This is an interesting one. I've never really seen anything like these in patch notes, so I'm curious how this is going to affect the gameplay. Now we have our UI interface and bug fixes, things along those. I'm not going to go too in depth into all of these. Now, another thing that they did that this shows off really well over on Twitter is health regeneration. They made it so that you start regenerating health in 3 seconds and you're at maximum health at 4, whereas before you started regenning at 4 and you were at max health within 7. This is way faster. It's going to make MP much quicker, health regen much quicker. If you're an aggressive player, this is a great update for you. And now we get into weapons and attachments. So for this, I read them out and then I go over whether they are buff or a nerf. I try to do this as quickly as possible because generally these are pretty boring. And keep in mind, this should only be in multiplayer that we are looking at here. So first of all, assault rifles. The Holger 5.56 increased the aim down sights time. So that is a nerf to the aim down sights time. The MCW, we have increased aim down sights time and increased sprint to fire time. So that is a nerf. So with the Jack Raven kit here, essentially what I believe that they're doing is they're making it better at long range and worse at short range with better headshot multipliers. So overall, if you're using it at long range, better. If you're using it at short range, worse. Moving into battle rifles, the Bass B, increased sprint to fire time, increased aim down sights, and increased hip spread. In other words, a nerf to the Bass B. The Sidewinder, increased bullet velocity, so that is a buff, and decreased recoil, so that is a buff as well. And then the Jack Thunder LMG kit for the Sidewinder, this is a buff all around. You're going to be able to shoot faster for longer, and on top of that, the increased gun kick control and recoil by 35%, which is a big buff. The TAC V, with this one, we have increased maximum damage range and increased near medium damage range, so that is a buff to the weapon range on it. SMGs, the Striker, increased near medium damage range and increased medium damage range, so a buff to the range on the Striker. The AMR9, specifically double barrel kit, added missing hipfire crosshair. I guess that's a buff. The WSP9, decreased aim down sights time, increased maximum damage range, and increased near medium damage range, so a buff all around to that one. The Blood Mother 45 kit, decreased aim down sights time and decreased movement speed penalty, so a buff to that as well. Moving into shotguns, with the Lockwood Heavy Defender barrel, increased sprint to fire time penalty, so that is a nerf to that specific attachment. The KV Broadside from Modern Warfare 2, decreased sprint to fire time and decreased aim down sights time, so that's a buff to the KV Broadside. LMG, the TAC Eradicator, increased sprint to fire time and increased aim down sights time, so nerf to the TAC Eradicator. The RAL MG from Modern Warfare 2, decreased sprint to fire and decreased aim down sights, so a buff to that one. The 5.56 Icarus from Modern Warfare got a buff to the sprint to fire time, and the RPK from Modern Warfare 2 got a buff to the aim down sights time as well. The MCW 6.8 got a buff to everything except a slight nerf to the bullet velocity. The DM56 got a slight nerf to its damage, but only slightly. The MTZ Interceptor got increased sprint to fire time, increased aim down sights time, and decreased neck damage multiplier by quite a large amount. That is a pretty big nerf all around for that one. And then the SPR 208 got decreased maximum damage range and increased upper arm damage to 1.5. So that's a buff, but the other one is a nerf. So I would say overall, mostly, unless you're shooting someone in the upper arm, is a nerf. The Lockwood MK2 got increased maximum damage and decreased maximum damage range. The LMS got decreased intensity of aim down sights idle sway, which I think everything got, so I guess it did especially. The SAB 50 increased maximum damage and decreased maximum damage range, so just like we saw with the Lockwood from before. Sniper rifles, the Longbow, decreased aim down sights time, so that'll help out your quick scopers. The Signal 50 decreased maximum damage range, that is a nerf. The SPX 80 increased aim down sights time, that's a nerf to the aim down sights time. Handguns, the Renetti, the Jack Ferocity carbine kit, decreased movement speed penalty, so that's a buff to that. And the Basilisk from Modern Warfare 2 got increased maximum damage range, increased near, medium, and far medium damage ranges, and lower torso damage multiplier. So a big buff to the Basilisk. Launchers, the Stormender, they addressed an issue with it, that's about it. They nerfed the melee range by 30% on pretty much all of the melee weapons. So if you're a melee player, you are really not going to like that one. Now, field upgrades. Medbox decreased the time to deploy to 1.3 seconds, so a slight buff to that. Munitions box decreased the time to deploy as well. With the ACS, objectives can no longer be captured from further vertical distance than intended. So before, if you had it way above, it would work better than the distance to the side. So it works more like a circle now. Attack camera resolved an exploit that allowed players to see through environment when used with certain equipment. Deployable cover addressed an exploit. Dead silence resolved an issue causing the activation sound to be more audible than others to other players. Kill streaks, the Juggernaut recon. There is now an oxygen meter for if you're in the water with the Juggernaut. Also, gunship, when destroyed by the Stormender, visual effects will no longer persist on the player's HUD. So just a fix there. Then we get into ranked. With this one, they removed certain maps. So for example, Terminal Hardpoint and added in Rio. There's also some other changes to SR and things like that. I'm not going to go too in depth with that one as there is a lot there. Now, we get into zombies, and essentially what they say for zombies is more things are coming, including the continue of the story missions in the Dark Ether and schematics coming during Season 2. So nothing until the Season 2 Reloaded update. However, they did make some gameplay changes. They increased the drop rate chances of ammo pouches in high threat zones. They also added in Season 1 weapons into the mystery box. The ray gun, the damage got increased for both the base weapon and Pack-a-Punch. Base projectile speed also was increased and reduced the damage the ray gun will deal to its owner. In other words, a big buff to the ray gun. The Scorcher, they decreased the time between pressing and firing the Scorcher. Direct impact plasma damage now increased by 333%. Lingering plasma damage up by 428%. They buffed the Scorcher big time. The VR11 will now hit and deal damage to ether worms. So it seems like they are buffing these weapons, these wonder weapons, to do better damage to bosses is what it seems to me. Then with the HRM, crossbow, and dual Kodachis, they just fixed bugs with it. The kill streaks, Juggernaut, they closed various duplication exploits with it that I've seen people do, as well as addressed an issue players from switching weapons after using the Juggernaut kill streak. That's actually happened to me before. And they fixed various crashes and stabilities. No news on wallets or exfil streaks or anything like that. But that summarizes the Modern Warfare 3 and the zombies portion of the update. Now, moving to Warzone. So here we go, Warzone. Fortune's Keep is new. They added the map in. It is here today, so that is awesome. This is one of my favorite maps in Warzone ever, so I'm glad to see it return. They're also adding new things. Extendable bridges are one of the things that they're adding. Also, various different locations that weren't there before. I've gone over all of this before, so I'm not going to go into much more. Warzone ranked play resurgence. Again, we talked about this before, but kills matter. The time where you get your kills matter. So the later you are into the game, the more SR you're going to get for your kills. There is a player level requirement, which is level 55. I believe that's to stop hackers. That is a good thing. The max player count is 51 players or 17 squads. Circle 2, you get a loadout drop. Circle 3, you get a fire sale. And Circle 4, you get a restock. The spawn protection is reduced to 2.5 seconds. Another interesting thing is snipers will not down players in one shot in Resurgence ranked play. The max damage will be 299, making snipers way less viable than in the other game modes. I'm not sure why they're doing this. There's also weapon restrictions. So the weapons that are restricted are riot shields, all launchers, the shotguns, the KV broadside, MX Guardian, Haymaker, Riveter, and then attachments, snake shots, dragon's breath, or high explosive. Optics, all thermals are banned. Underbarrel, the Jack Purifier, and the Corvus Torch. The trigger action, the Maelstrom dual triggers, and perks, Bird's Eye, Plate Carrier, the Comms Vest, and vehicles all turreted and grounded. And we've gone over the SR, what level you have to be to get to certain SR, how you get SR. So first place, you get 100 SR, for example, but then kills are very important. There's challenges that gives you SR. And just like we have seen before with various other ranked modes. Now, as far as playlists go, the week of February 7th, in other words, today, we are getting Fortune's Keep Trios alone, Battle Royale, Urzikstan Solos, Duos, Trios, and Quads. Resurgence, we are getting Fortune's Keep, Solos, Duos, Trios, and Quads. So it's just ranked Resurgence, that's only Trios, and then Plunder, Urzikstan Quads. Now, our general changes is our audio improvement. Season 2 will see continued effort improving threat-based in-game audio. Ascender's audible distance and volume has increased, so you'll be able to hear people on Ascenders better. Same with parachutes, and enemy redeploy drones will now hear the intended VO when enemies are landing in your vicinity. So all of those things are good for audio. Gameplay-wise, there's a new event called a Rogue Signal, which is going to give you a challenge like get the most amount of damage on other teams within 90 seconds. Also, squad wipe streaks are going to be on all resurgence maps. Once you eliminate a team, you're going to have 90 seconds to eliminate another team to keep your squad wipe streak going. There's also new zombies contracts on Fortune Keep, including eradication contracts, which are going to give you a zombies high value target to eliminate. It works very similar to zombies, but in Battle Royale or specifically Resurgence. Also, zombies power-ups, including double points, full armor, max ammo, fire sale, looting spree, Zarkur, which allows you to move faster, and undead sight, which essentially allows you to see through walls for 45 seconds. And just like multiplayer, health regen has been updated as well. The speed at which you begin to heal after taking damage has decreased to 6 seconds, down from 7, so that's a buff to health regen. Also, health regen per second is now increased to 50, up from 40. So in other words, to get to 150 health, it's going to take you 3 seconds after 6 seconds, which is going to be a total of 9 seconds. Weapon builds have been updated on ground loot. Newer weapons have been added, things along those lines, everything that you'd expect. There's a danger zone in the tactical map. So in other words, if a player calls in a precision airstrike, it'll actually show where it's going to be on the tactical map, which is really, really good. Same with a precision airstrike. There's also UAV HUD notification. So it's going to highlight your map in red when there's a UAV in the area. I think that is awesome. I'm surprised they haven't done that earlier. Also, auto-equipped deployable gas mask. The redeploy ping has been moved to the bottom so it's not in your way constantly. Death location highlight. This now your skull that if you've been eliminated and redeploy will be there until you land on the ground, so you will be able to see it because it would disappear before. You can now auto-equip stowed kill streaks. I think that's really good. While you're aimed down sights, pings will now fade away. Another great quality of life improvement. And players can now stow their equipped perk pack. I don't know what the point of that is, but I guess that's a good thing. Now, Battle Royale on Urzikstan. What has changed on Urzikstan? So buy stations have moved around. Gulag loadouts have been updated. Item drops, they decrease the chance of portable radar and suppression mines by 30%. And the Champion's Crest progress will reset at the launch of Season 2. Diffuse time decreased by 10 seconds, down from 15. Chopper health increased by 10%. The order of elements have changed: beryllium, tritium, and plutonium. Then we get into general changes. We have the idle sway and the hipfire crosshair sway changes that we saw in MP as well. We also have our new weapons, which we talked about previously. Then we have our weapon balancing. This part is for Warzone. Now, assault rifles increase movement speed while aimed down sights. Battle rifles increase move speed. Same with marksman rifles. Same with light machine guns, and same with sniper rifles, making them more easy to use. The assault rifles, the Ram 7 from Modern Warfare 3, mid damage reduced and min damage reduced. So in other words, a nerf to the Ram 7. The MCW increased aim down sights time and increased sprint to fire time, so a nerf to that. The Holger 556, a nerf to the aim down sights time. For the TR-76 Geist, we have a bunch of multipliers changed. So the headshot one was reduced, the upper torso increased, and the arm and hand increased. So overall, relatively the same, just a little bit worse headshot damage. The BAS-B, max damage reduced, increased sprint to fire. In other words, the BAS-B got nerfed. The MTZ-762 semi-auto damage override has been removed. The Sidewinder, they increased the bullet velocity and they decreased the recoil and gun kicks significantly, which is, I guess, a buff. The Jack Thunder kit got a buff as well. You can now fire faster for longer, just like in multiplayer. Moving into SMGs, we have the HRM9 max damage reduced, so that is a nerfed. The WSP9 max damage range increased, mid damage range increased, and decreased aim down sight time. So buff all around to the WSP9. Shotguns, the Lockwood 680 mid damage reduced to 30. That's a big nerf. The Haymaker 12 gauge Dragon's Breath rounds, max damage decreased and mid damage range decreased, so a nerf to that one. The Riveter near mid damage range reduced, so that is a nerf to the Riveter. The Bryson 890 mid damage range reduced, so a nerf. KV Broadside, however, sprint to fire and aim down sights time got decreased, which is a buff. The Dragon's Breath on the Lockwood 300 got nerfed, and similarly with the Dragon's Breath round on the MX Guardian. The Pelumont, the Jack Annihilator Bullpulp kit, just added new variables into it. You're going to see this throughout the LMGs here. So for example, with the TAC Evolvery, max damage increased, so that is a buff. The max damage range reduced, so that is a nerf, but they also added a near mid damage, which is 29, and a near mid damage range, which is 45.8 meters. So the gun is just going to feel different at this point. I don't know whether it's better or worse. However, with the attack eradicator, this one got a nerf to the sprint to fire time. The 5.56 Icarus, however, got a buff to the sprint to fire, and the RAL LMG did as well. Similarly with the RPK, but with the ADS time. Now, the marksman rifles, the KVD Enforcer decreased the headshot multiplier to 1.4 times. With the MTZ Interceptor, increased sprint to fire, increased aim down sights, and decreased neck multiplier. In other words, big nerf to the MTZ Interceptor. The MCW 6.8, this one decreased aim down sights time, decreased hip fire spread, decreased hip fire spread maximum, and decreased bullet velocity. So overall, a buff to the MCW, but I believe the bullet velocity is just a little bit worse. The LMS reduced idle sway just like everything else. The crossbow neck damage multiplier increased, so I think it's a one-shot kill to the neck now, and lower limb damage multiplier increased just slightly as well. Now, sniper rifles, the XRK Stalker now one-shot downs to the head within the maximum damage range, which is 50 meters. The longbow min damage reduced to 73, down from 75, and they decreased the aim down sights time. The Signal 50 near mid damage range reduced, so that is a nerf, and the XPS increased aim down sights time, so that is a nerf as well. Keep in mind that this XRK Stalker will not be a one-shot kill in the ranked playlist. The handguns, the Renetti just got a change to the Jack Ferocity Carbine kit, which reduced its movement penalty, so that's a buff. The WSP Stinger, the max damage increased, the near damage increased, and the mid damage increased. So big buff to the WSP Stinger. The 50 GS max damage increase, so a buff to that. And the Basilisk lower damage modifier increase, so a buff to that as well. Just like multiplayer, all of the knife's melee lunge distances got reduced by 30%. And I believe the Jack BFB muzzle here got a really big nerf. And we also have some changes to perks. The Flex perk revised audio levels while equipped. Irradiated will now reduce gas damage by 20% up from 10, so a buff to Irradiated. Battle Hardened will now show the resist icon for the kill streak owner when player resists the Guardian. Quick Fix will now correctly begin regenerating health when the player inserts an armor plate. Shrouded, the deployed smoke grenade will now has a slightly randomized offset so that it is not deployed directly on top of the player. Then we have equipment for the most part here. The Breacher drone got a nerf, but the frag grenade got a buff, quite a big buff actually. So frag grenades might be pretty useful now. Gas mask health reduced to 100, down from 120. The durable gas mask is now at 200, so nerf to gas mask. We also have a ton of bug fixes here. And that brings us to the end. I know there was a ton of patch notes here. Hopefully I could get through them quickly for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button. We're going to have the Battle Pass video coming up in the next couple of hours here. If you enjoyed, subscribe, notifications, all of that kind of jazz. This has been the Season 2 update. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And until next time, peace. We are